Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about William Blake's A Poison Tree. I'm just going to run through the basic message of the poem, tell you a little bit of context about William Blake himself, and then give you some descriptions of the form of the poem and its intended effect. So get your flashcards ready and let's get started.
Okay, so what's this poem all about? Really, A Poison Tree is about anger. William Blake presents two ways of dealing with anger. The first way is you express it and it goes away. The second way is to suppress that anger, repress it, keep it in. And the poem basically is telling you how dangerous that is. It uses the metaphor of a tree that is, nourished with anger, and then eventually it bears a poison fruit, which its enemy eats and then potentially dies. So it's a real kind of lesson, this poem, about why suppressing emotion and exhibiting too much self-control can be dangerous. It sort of goes against some of the kind of Christian teachings of the time. Okay, so thinking about context, which will link into what I just said about Christian teaching. So William Blake was a very, very interesting chap. He was alive from 1757 to 1828, and he wrote this poem, or this collection of poems, published in 1794. He was, yes, a romantic poet, so very much believing in the beauty and the wonder and the power of nature, being opposed to the sort of industrial revolution and the expansion of the cities, but he was also very, very much a non-conformist, very much kind of against the authorities of the time and the control that they exhibited. He was also inspired by the French Revolution, which, he was inspired by the way the people stood up and rebelled against the powerful forces, the monarchy, obviously, in France. Now, he wrote two collections of poems. Well, he wrote more than that, but the one that you're looking at is part of the Songs of Experience, which is the sort of partner to another set of poems called Songs of Innocence. Songs of Innocence is very much about celebrating the pastoral and celebrating the innocence of childhood, whereas Songs of Experience is a criticism of the world that he is living in, particularly focusing on the way that the government and the church are corrupt. Now, that's not to say that he wasn't a religious man. He was a deeply religious man. In fact, he actually thought that angels spoke to him. He thought he had visions. That's one of the reasons that he's writing these poems in the way that he is. What he's saying in these poems is we need to go back to a true form of spirituality, not these rigid rules that are being placed or being put down by the church. And he was really, really interested and worried about the way, in particular, that children were being treated by the church. And so this poem is about perhaps standing up to or going against the Christian preaching of forbearance, that you've got to keep everything sort of locked in. And he's actually saying, no, do you know what? You have to express your emotions. Okay, a couple of words on form. This is a really nice poem to talk about form. There's loads you can say. So you can see that it's set out in quatrains, and you can see quite clearly that it is a series of rhyming couplets, or AABB if you prefer, but rhyming couplets. So each line, if you see friend and end rhyme, and then foe and grow rhyme, rhyming couplets. Now, this is quite a typical Blake thing. Create like this light-hearted, bouncy feel, nursery rhyme, type rhythm or rhyme, but then actually be talking about something very, very, very complex. The poem, on first look, seems really simplistic, but actually underneath that very simple rhyme scheme is a very, very powerful message. So the rhyme is perhaps used slightly ironically. What's very interesting is the meter. Okay, so what you're going to notice is that the lines, although they are largely tetrameter, the stresses change from trochaic tetrameter to iambic tetrameter. So trochaic is when the beat is on the first syllable of each foot, and iambic is when it's on the second beat of each syllable. So if you look at the first line, I was angry with my friend, trochaic tetrameter. Second line, I told my wrath did end, iambic tetrameter. So we've got these kind of contrasting meters. You'll also notice that a lot of the lines, this is called catalecsis, when you shorten the line by a syllable. So you'll notice, because I'm saying it's tetrameter, and you'd say 4 feet of 8 syllables. Now, most of these lines have 7 syllables, so this is what we call a truncated line. The last syllable is dropped off. So there's this sort of hesitancy. It doesn't quite get to the end. And I think really what Blake is doing here is he's trying to represent the notion of conflict, competing rhythms, competing meters, a sense of almost dissatisfaction at the end of the lines because it doesn't quite hit the 8th syllable. This is all about being mimetic of the conflict that he is describing here between, enemies. That's it for me. Hopefully that was helpful. Another video is coming your way where I'm going to analyse 5 key moments from the poem. Knowing me, I'll probably just end up analysing the whole poem because it's short enough, but we shall see. But look out for that. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, happy revising.